Welcome to the Select Star Podcast, your resource for innovative technology, developer topics, and more. Here's your host, Margo McCabe from the HarperDB team.
All right, we are live. So welcome to the Select Star Podcast. Today I'm super excited about the guest that we have. And I know he's a really busy guy and not easy to lock down. So just makes it all the more special. So today we have Jerome Hardaway, who is the founder of Vets Who Code. I actually just pulled up his Twitter bio, which I think is super fun, that says Captain America of Code, JavaScript is the shield, Vets Who Code is where I train future Avengers. So welcome, Jerome. Thanks so much for taking time to chat. I'm super excited to meet you.
Hey, thank you. I'm super excited to chat with you as well.
Awesome. So where are you calling in from today?
I am calling in from Atlanta. So I've recently moved there and I'm just, getting situated while still doing some work things, knocking out some projects and some contracts. So that's the move right now.
Okay, very cool. I've only been to Atlanta once. It seems like a really cool city. Our team is all based around the Denver area, so not very close, but I was there not that long ago and really enjoyed it. So very cool. Well,
Denver's very cold right now.
I know. Last weekend it was 0 degrees and even below zero, which never happens. But
Most of America is cold right now, and I have a personal vendetta against the weathermen and meteorologists that decide to go beyond zero in the when they give us the temperatures. Like, who cares once it gets past zero? Like,
yeah,
I don't even know how much worse beyond zero this is. Like,
exactly. That's a really good way to put it. I don't think there's really that much of a difference in feeling. I mean, if it's 0 and super windy, I guess I'd want to know that. But yeah, -5, -10, it's all the same.
they could just say, "Yo, it sucks. Stay inside."
Yeah.
That's all they have to say.
Exactly. Well, hey, I'm excited to hear about you and your background and your journey. I've definitely been reading and following Vets Who Code. It seems like a really great and really necessary organization. So excited to get into that a little bit later, but would love to start off with just hearing a bit about your background, your journey. It looks like you started off in the Air Force, and then how did you get into the Air Force, and coming back, what made you want to get into coding and then start such an awesome organization?
Roger that. What got me into the Air Force was a buddy program that they had. I had a cousin who was trying to join, but he ended up getting in a little trouble he had before he was 18, and basically with the recruiter to help sweeten the deal. This is I did not know this as a teenager. Help sweeten the deal that they had this program where they could send people as buddies to the military, and they would be able to join and do their thing together. Well, we ended up getting to Lackland Air Force installation. My mom, she told me years later, yeah, they knew, the recruiter knew that, when we all got on the bus, that your cousin was going to be ousted from the Air Force. See, the recruiter literally said, oh no, they're gonna love Jerome, but his cousin, no, they're not gonna take him. They won't keep him along. And I was like, why do y'all not tell us this? And they're like, yeah, we didn't know. So that's my weird start into military service.
Yeah.
Yeah, ended up getting into the military. With security forces. I just wanted, I was like, you know what, give me the coolest jobs, and give me dates, tattoos, and all the other stupid stuff. Because when you're 17, you're not thinking at all like a mature adult.
Right.
Now
Very
I'm yes, I'm much more mature, and I make decisions not based off tattoos and guns and stuff. I'm very much grown up. Um, so did that. Was deployed a few times, and then from there, I went towards. I was on my way out, and I'm having some injuries, and I'm getting medically retired. Uh, and I just exited. Once I exited the military, um, I had money left over from that. I was getting my disability, but it was just at the height of the recession, and there were no jobs for my skill set coming from security forces. There was a lot of like, you know, police type stuff. Well, it was at the height of the recession, so no one was hiring anyone with law enforcement backgrounds. There's nothing to do. So I had options was like making like 850 an hour as a security guard at companies like Home Depot,
Mhm.
or go back overseas to private military like companies, and like I was like no to both of those. So I was looking at option C, which do something that I wanted to do. Do something in tech. I was doing research early on, and I saw that people that were in like digital space during a recession, they were their idea of hurting was like ridiculous. Like, oh, Elon Musk went from like a multi-millionaire to a millionaire, stuff like that. I was
Right.
like, Bill Gates had to, one of his Ferraris is gone. I was like, really? Okay, one. Yeah, this is the squad I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of the team that, they go from 20 million to 2 million when they get hurt. So I started, I went to a Starbucks, and not Starbucks, it was Barnes and Nobles. Saw a book on databases and started teaching myself to do databases. And also, like, I saw a commercial on DeVry or ITT Institute or something like that. And one of those for-profit colleges not around anymore, and they were talking about technology. So I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. Took 6 months pouring my heart into this stuff, and ended up getting my first job actually with the government as a TWIC certified agent, and using like data things I learned with databases to connect the two things, connect databases together to make sure our waterways were safe. Basically, people would come in, we do background checks on them. These are people who wanted to work on the nation's waterways and coast. We do background checks, and I would join the databases from the several background checking systems to deem that these people were safe or unsafe to work, you know, in the on our nation's waterways based upon the parameters that were given us. Like I wasn't like the person choosing it. I was like, yeah, these are the rules. This is what the book says. This is no go. From there, moved back home, help a family member that she had some health issues while in Memphis. Once again, new place. Uh, which is why like I guess I'm really big about community now because I moved like from Florida to Tennessee, two places, Memphis to Nashville and Atlanta, and I know how important a network is or a community is because I know how hard it was to like start over in Memphis.
Right.
And a year later, I'm doing like a bunch of odd jobs. So nonprofit let me chose me to be his marketing administrative assistant.
Oh,
So, but of course, when you're under 30 and you're young, the first thing that happens, they're like, hey, you're young, you can figure out this computer stuff, fix the website. I was like, that's not even in the job description. Um, ended up spending 3 months learning a bunch of stuff, a little bit of front end Ruby, ERB syntax, a little bit of PHP, a lot of CSS, a lot of HTML, a lot of just learning and building. It took about 3 months to get the site up and running and pretty. Then I moved from that to doing a lot more, uh, just doing a lot more things when it comes to uh, tech at the company, more digital stuff, thinking, looking at digital marketing, looking at how to convert people to go to the website into people who want to, use, not use, but donate, how to like expand the website's reach, things of that nature. Learn a lot about SEO, things of that. So basically, I was just, I guess, interning for what I was going to create in the future. Well, 2 years after that, there was a young veteran who had fallen and who had lost his life. And one of the things that was going on is that his family didn't have enough money to give him a proper funeral. So, and none of the nonprofits were stepping up to help. So, Friday, I took that day off, built a website, and just um, using, I think, just LampStack, basic LampStack on a single PHP form. It wasn't, it was pre Jamstack days, which is like, I'm so jealous of the kids now when it comes to Jamstack. I am like, you can build a business off of Jamstack and start making money.
Right.
Like, it's nothing like these other companies or like how it used to be back in the day when you had to know something back endy. Like, nah, you can choose to forego the back end, you know, if
With
you
all
want to, and still be
yeah.
profitable and still be okay. I'm just
Yeah.
totally jealous. Um, so yeah, so I built it, lamp stack for the form, tell a story, donate a donation button with PayPal, and like people donated. In 27 hours, we raised about $10,000. We were able to set this family up pretty nicely, and that was just our story with Vetsu Code. Like, you
Right.
know, being that's how Vetsu Code got started. It was a veteran's family needed our help, and we were there. Well, afterwards, because I was like, I'm done. I don't need to do anything else for the rest of my life. Have this good thing. People are like, no, you're not. What else are you gonna do? And I was thinking, taking a really long, hard look at my life, and the thing that I really noticed or that I really wanted to touch on was programming and learning how to code, learning these digital tools really helped me. And I wanted to know, like, are there other people that I could help by empowering them with these tools? I saw the writing on the wall. It's kind of weird because I was like, this is like 2014. Like, everybody should have saw the writing on the wall at some point that, what, tech is going to take over, and, it's going to be that frontier, that, you know, go-to industry for at least the next 10, 20 years. And,
Right.
some version of it is going to be the new hotness for the next, 30, 40 years. I remember, you know, it wasn't like until 2 years ago where, JavaScript and React was still, where JavaScript was still like, you know, wild, wild west. And now it's more like cloud computing, like serverless technologies on top of whether back end or front end. It's a new wild, wild west. Like, yeah, it's cool, a coding language, but what can you do with AWS or Azure or Google Cloud?
Right.
Um, so I just I doubled down on that and started focusing on, teaching veterans how to code. And my first two cohorts, we ended up like I was young then, had so many people in those. Like, I'll just take whoever would come. And without any thinking, but I got lucky, and 100% of those guys and girls got jobs. And then the president of the United States at that time, Barack Obama, he saw my work, invited me to the White House, and like that's pretty much it to date. I've been helping veterans learn how to code. I think I'm at like 273 when it comes to veterans get a job. We just had a new cohort graduate, and there's been some lumps on this new cohort because they had a pandemic, and then they turned around and had an ice storm during Q1. So like I have troops that are waiting for the lights to turn back on before we can even do one-on-ones and stuff with them. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but like for the most part, like we're at a 94% success rate, and
Wow.
we just keep going. Yeah, when we first
Yeah.
started, we were doing a lot of the basics of like a lot of basic front end with Ruby on Rails, but now we try to be um, one of my mentors. He taught me about going where to scale and how to scale. So we try to be the best on the front end side while scaling our marketing and our outreach. But we also want to be we're one of the strongest on the serverless side as well. So front end technologies and serverless technologies is what we focus on. We focus on eating our own dog food, in which we are teaching the things that we use at Vetsu Code. So
Mhm.
we're teaching Gatsby, we're teaching AWS, we're teaching Netlify, we're teaching GitHub and GitHub Actions. We're teaching those things because that's how we use to operate the site. We teach Stripe because that's what we're using that to run the site, right?
Right.
So that's our that's our process. Like, that's how we do things.
That's
Um, Say again?
That's incredible. I mean, it seems like you clearly identified, a major gap and a major need, and to see how quickly you had success. I mean, as you said, even that first cohort, even if it was small or however many people were in it, that there was success, I think just goes to show how much of a need there was for this, and how this is kind of your calling, and how, this is something that you're really good at helping the community with. And so I think it's incredible to hear, and it's awesome that you guys have had such a great success rate. I'm curious, so you mentioned when you had those first couple, that first cohort that kind of enrolled and joined, was it and is it still you yourself that's doing the teaching, teaching these folks how to code, or are you kind of giving them the resources, showing them the online classes they can take, and then helping more with like recruiting and placing in jobs, or a little bit of everything?
Negative. See, we are still doing in-person teaching.
Okay,
I think that's something that's really different from us. Like we call it, we have a phase process protocol, whatever you'll call it, in which we call, crawl, walk, run. Which at the very beginning we're very hands-on, and you're
right.
meeting 4 days a week with an instructor, and we're taking you, we're literally working with you all the time. You have your mentor as well who knows what's going on. Well, then after that, we have our walk phase, which also comes in with our computer science phase, where people are not as hands on. We're expecting you to do a little more research before you ask questions. And then, we have our run phase, which is like it's product based. So I feel like you can get a lot of the things, like if you learn how to research and learn how to learn, you'll be okay. But it's tough. It's very close to how crazy and wild the tech world is, and we do that because I believe, like, just like in a combat situation, just like in a boxing ring or anything like that, I'm a firm believer that you should not experience anything that you would not experience in the industry out in the before you leave that Sukkot. Like, get all your frustrations out, get all of your craziness out, get all of your hiccups and mess ups out
Mhm.
now, because I want you pruned and pristine when you're in front of an employer. I do that because, like, even with our open source initiative, like, usually people are pulling tickets for Betsu Code, which is, 100% open source, as their first open source project. We do this intentionally. Like we had during Hacktoberfest, we had so many people pulling tickets. Like right now, I'm at the point where I don't want to put any tickets out because I just want to wait till Hacktoberfest, because I don't want to end up having a situation where I don't have any tickets for anyone.
Okay.
Um,
A good problem to have.
yeah, so we did that, and what basically, like, that's how we do it. I want to make sure you get as much exposure and training with things as possible, whether it's pairing with a person a little more advanced with you as you're working, because at the same time it's also a product. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to put you just out there on our AWS. That's how come AWS keeps going down. They keep putting kids on their AWS like code, and someone keeps deleting a line of code, and then the whole infrastructure goes down. So we'll have you with someone more advanced so that they can pair program with you and walk you through things. And, on the meteor tickets we do that as well, but then on the good first issue tickets, we try to give them, run the reins. And we have our process where, make sure they build their feature branch, and then they have to, have a PR and a review before it gets merged. And we try to, we set these protocols intentionally so they know exactly how it is to work on a collaborative team. That's part of the process.
Okay. Interesting. So it's that, I mean, that's very cool. So it's almost as if, and when these folks, after going through the program, are going to look for jobs and apply, they can put like vets who code on their resume, the same as getting a degree, or studying at another institution, right? I mean, it's probably a similar accreditation. Or how do you think employers look at that?
Well, I just got off a really cool call with GitHub. So depending on companies, they look really highly at Vetsuko, like the communities and cultures. Like they really respect the Vetsuko
Right. Not
culture
surprising.
because
Yeah.
I guess because we've been doing it for 6 years, and we've been keeping the lights on and winning in a manner that it's hard out here to do by just focusing on one thing and trying to be the best at it, right? It's
Right.
really hard to do that, especially every year. I need to start doing this thing where I just, vanish at the end of the year, because what happens is, like, we have a big November, like our big Q4, where like people who are doing stories of Veterans Day, and we're having all this stuff come out. And what happens is that people are like, all right, so are you going to expand? Are you going to teach this stack? Or like, I get 30 emails where people want me to start teaching their stack. And I'm just, this year is going to be the year I'm going to disappear. So I don't want to teach your stack. I don't want to have to learn Python to teach Python, or, learn .NET to teach .NET. So like, but every year that happens, where our success is like, okay, well now replicate it for this. And like, that's not how education works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's a good sign that people are reaching out and wanting access to
yeah, it's
that's the code. It's definitely a good sign, and I think probably with how busy you are over the course of the year, you deserve to disappear for a little bit anyway and take a break, but I
yeah.
think maybe that's just kind of, a sign that one day, eventually, you could expand into other cities and, like, try to find a
Plus,
double
I think that's something that
you
people
quit.
don't understand. We're in all the cities. Like, we helped so much. I think there's 5 states that I haven't placed a veteran in, of the 50 states. Hawaii is one of them. I have a veteran that I placed in Alaska. I have another
Oh,
veteran that I'm going to be placing in Alaska. Yeah, because we're 100% remote,
right.
we help veterans all over the country. We actually started a program where we're helping overseas veterans now, like veterans who are a part of allied forces. We just accepted our first allied force veteran at the end of the year for the upcoming
Oh,
cohort. He's from South Korea. He was South Korean Marines. And we got that idea of being able to do that because one of our top performers, who's a veteran, Andrew James, he's a senior software engineer now. And basically, like, when he came to us, he was living in Finland, and like, he was a basically crazy story. This kid was special forces candidate, but he got his college degree with a scholarship from D1 cheerleading. So once he got out, he was helping with the U.S. Olympics to try to make cheerleading a sport in the Olympics.
wow.
And he ended up getting a. He showed me his Olympic ring. Like, this dude has an Olympic ring. Like, oh my god! Like, what a rock star!
Yeah.
So yeah, so he got a contract in Finland to teach cheerleading. And while he was in there, he met the love of his life. He ended up staying 5 years, but his family's like health was ailing, so he wanted to come back to the States, and he needed a job that could support both of them. And so he reached out to me. And the first time he reached out to me, I thought he was a troll. I was like, no, this is fake. This is ISIS. I got to get out of here. I blocked him, everything. He's like, no, no, this is a real person. I was like, okay, let's jump on a Zoom. I want to see your face. Right. So we jumped on a Zoom. We saw each other. Like, this is like 3 years ago. I was like, okay, cool. And like, he asked me for help, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, this is one of those things that's scary. That's gonna scare me. And I always had this idea of, like, if it scares you, do it, right? Because the stuff, like, the downside of the military is the things that don't scare you, the things that are easy, they don't really motivate you. Like, they don't push you, they don't force you to grow. Like, you're stagnant, you're sad, you're unhappy. So I needed something that was gonna, you have this moniker of Captain America of Code. I needed something that was gonna earn me that title of Captain America of Code. And like, so we took him in, and we decided that we were going to start training him, and he ended up getting his job at Verizon. And we just kept training him until things kept getting, like, till we ended up getting better and better, and bigger jobs came along. And he's one of my most talented veterans, and he has never not gotten a position through networking through Vetsu Code. And I take pride on the jobs that he's had, the positions he's gotten, and the growth that he's came through, and knowing that still with a person as talented as that I can be a person of influence that can help this person's career.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. And I mean, that's such a fun story. I'm sure there's so many similar success stories that
Yes,
probably just motivate you more and more, each month, each year that goes on. I'm sure it's crazy
I
busy
think
and
that's the most
stressful
that's the most
and
fun part of this job.
yeah,
Like,
those results.
the people who I teach how to code, they're not, coming from like your average everyday walks of life. I'm right now, my
Right.
favorite, one of my favorite troops right now, she's Army EOD, and like she loves UX and loves accessibility, so that's the path we're focusing with her. And on an auxiliary path for her, but she, like I said, you know, she's going from like diffusing bombs to talking about user stories and
Yeah.
endpoints and things of that nature. Like, yo, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Uh,
It must be so nice for her and for these people in the program to be surrounded by other people that know where they're coming from, because I can imagine that, coming from being a vet and trying to figure out what you're gonna do next, it's probably you don't even know where to start. So, having the organization led by someone like you and other people that have walked in their shoes, I'm sure that just, makes an astronomical difference.
I think that's the biggest one. Like knowing that you can do it too because someone else did it
Yeah.
helps. Like, you can't be what you can't see, and I'm very open with these guys and girls. Like, I was security forces, so I am like, because there was a huge rumor out there like 4 years ago when I started this, like 2014, so closer to like 6 years ago. Like people had me, I was reading on forums and stuff. I was like, I'm an officer. I never was an officer, or like I was an enlisted troop. I did like 6 years, and I'm like, I'm not one of those. Like, I wasn't intelligence. I wasn't anything. I was security forces. I'm a normal guy. What are y'all talking about? So, so
Yeah.
like, I'm very open about that. So they know that they too can, reach, work. If they work hard, they do the work, and they think about ingenuity and inventiveness, they too can reach the halls of the White House, and they can do amazing things, and they can help, their fellow man or woman, and focus on doing cool things while pushing pixels, right?
Right.
So, that is like that's what we focus on.
Yeah. Very cool. I mean, it's definitely inspiring to say the least. It's so great to hear about these success stories, and I'm sure it's infectious, this attitude of people that come through and then they're able to find success and they're probably motivated to go help other people as well. So it's just, setting a chain reaction of helping these people out. And as you said, you're giving them skills and teaching them something that is in the biggest, most important, one of the most important industries in the tech industry right now. So no matter where they go, they'll be able to use these skills and apply them elsewhere. And even if they do have to learn an additional language or framework or something else down the line, I think just learning those fundamentals for, especially for code newbies and people just getting started, it can be so daunting. So I think it's great to, have you guys there
Yes.
and showing showing the light at the end of the tunnel. Was there a reason that you kind of chose, it seems like JavaScript is your main focus? Was there, I mean, it is a extremely popular and a lot of people love it, so I'm not questioning it, but was there a reason that you did choose JavaScript instead of some of the other popular options out there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's the most flexible language. I can, you can mastery of this language. You can pretty much teach anything, right? You can teach data science, data visualization. A little practical machine learning is a book out there now that's done in 100% JavaScript with TensorFlow. You can do Node, so server side, Node Express, server side languages, static site generators. You can do pretty much everything with JavaScript, right? So that's one. Two, the biggest thing that was special for me was it is device agnostic. Like if I was to choose Swift, like Swift is a very friendly language to learn as a beginner, right? Apple intentionally did it that way. But it has that caveat that to get things working and working well, you either like I don't even know if there's an Apple emulator for Windows. I do know that you need a Mac for Swift, right? So that would be a caveat, right? Caveat, right? Java until not Java, .NET until 2017 was not open source. Right now they have .NET Core, but when I was starting, they didn't have .NET Core. So if you had a Mac, you couldn't learn .NET. You had to learn you had to learn something else.
Right.
PHP, people just hate PHP in general. So I try to stay with that. Rails was do like we weren't doing that because it was getting into what was the market was saturated, and people weren't using Rails, weren't hiring Rails developers because Rails, ironically, Rails was too easy, which was horrible as a programmer. Like as a culture, we kind of pride ourselves on doing these technical hard things, and because of the magic of Rails, like if you knew Rails, like if you didn't know Rails, like you could still get a working web app. But if something went wrong and it wasn't like something that you had to defocus, you wouldn't know what was going on. And I think that happened with the market, especially in 2015, 2016. It just got saturated, and the people weren't strong enough programmers. Even though, like I tell people all the time, I love Ruby on Rails. Like that's my favorite framework. That's how I absolutely fell in love with React. Actually, like I did a React on Rails app for a social justice hackathon that was focusing on helping trans youth like connect with education resources and things of that nature. I used React on Rails. Everybody on my team had no computer programming experience, and the average age was like 16. So I forced them to go through a tutorial with me at least, and then make the pitch deck and stuff. So I was with these kids, and they absolutely hated it because I was an old, grumpy old man in them. I'm like serious and military, and that community doesn't like the type of structure that I bring to the game. Uh, but after they did that, I was like, all right, you guys are dismissed. You can go play and do all this other stuff. And I used the things that they learned to build a kind of like Twitter like app that also had these rooms as well that they could have resources, allies, build connections, of shelters, things of that nature. Spent most of the night doing that while everybody out was out like dancing and stuff and doing the other things. Came back, they did their pitch. I showed them the website. I showed them I had it live for them, like a React on Rails app using Rails for the API and React for the front end. I had a color scheme for it that was like a nice sky, well, closer to pewter blue and a coral like tangerine. That's a secondary color because I have a really weird design. I don't know how I got that like after spending all that time in the military. Um, they end up loving it. I even had a logo for them, and I showed them how to sign in and how to make users. And they're like, we can all sign in and make users." Yes. So we sent it to we sent it to the judges. And then when they did the pitch for it, they knocked the pitch out and like out the water, and they end up all winning like $500 and Xbox X's. And of course, Mr. Serious Veteran Guy, Mr. Military Man, as he's calling me, went from the lamest teacher to the coolest teacher in like 3 minutes,
That's
right?
awesome.
you know,
That's so
yeah.
funny.
And from that day on, I was like, "Yo, React is pretty cool."
Yeah,
So
that's really cool.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it makes sense overall, the explanation of JavaScript. I was just curious. I kind of like how you went through and why not choosing any of the other options. But I think it's a good choice, and it's probably so widespread, and there's so many different frameworks within JavaScript that you could work with. That teaching um, the even just the basics of that is probably a really great way to start. I know most people, especially front end, seems like they do start like around the CSS JavaScript realm. So that's awesome. That'll make sense. It sounds like you've got this great path, and you know what you're doing. And I'm super excited to hear about this. I thank you so much for sharing. I just have a couple other things I was curious about. One thing I was going to ask is, do you know of other organizations that are similar to you guys, similar to Vets Who Code? I mean, if it's not in the coding tech world, but just other similar organizations that really kind of take these people under their wing and give them training and resources they need to move into whatever um, job or career that they'd like. Do you guys know of other organizations like that, or do you have like any tips or recommendations if there's other people out there listening that want to find organizations or even start something of their own? I mean, I'm sure that you could write a whole book on starting an organization from the ground up, but
I'm actually writing a book called Modernizing Nonprofits. I have a contract with youth villages, and I'm working on modernizing their stack
oh wow.
with them. And so, like, that's one of my passions. Is like I feel like a lot of nonprofits don't leverage technology correctly, and to the level they could help with their return on investment of tech. And people, even the ones who've been around for 20, 30 years, like these villages, they're not thinking of the scope of, like, yeah, we could get so much more impact and things done, especially with the newer generation of people who are looking to adopt or be parents, be, even when you think of like big brother, big sister, I think of all these organizations and how they could be leveraging technologists better, right? So that's what I want to. That's where my real passion lies in right now. It's like just helping that. When it comes to VSOs, like Vetsuko, the harsh reality is there isn't a VSO like Vetsuko. There are other orgs, but they're not as intensive as we are. Like they aren't what we like to call ourselves. We are re-entry to retirement, which means we're here to help you, to serve you from the moment you decide you want to re-enter the civilian sector as a software engineer to the moment you want to get out of the software engineering sector and, like, count uh I don't know, just be an old person on the farm. Like that's our goal in the end of the
Wow.
day. Like, yeah, like I said, people like Andrew, people like Schuster, they have never, they've never not known a world where they have not gotten help or resources from Betsuko when they needed, from job interview training to just, coming through the cohorts, right? Like whenever they have a job interview, they're like, hey, yo, I need people to help me with this stuff. And we always huddle around them and start drilling them, right? So that's what makes us unique. Once on Vetsuko, your family. So once you get in, we try to keep you in for as long as we can. And I just haven't seen, it's a reason why, Business Insider is writing about us, GitHub's working with us for the scope of the year. It's just, there's a reason why that's there, because the other orgs, they just, they haven't figured that part out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's clearly very hands-on, and that's interesting. I didn't even think about kind of the long-term path that you're keeping that relationship way past just, getting them a job. Because I'm sure other maybe similar organizations, the main goal is just get some training, get them out the door, place them somewhere and kind of move on. And I think that's probably part of what makes you guys so unique is that, as you said, like this is a lifetime community and resource, and we're there for you moving forward. Even if you land your dream job, it's not like you just sign a contract and move on and never talk again. So I think that's really cool
Because,
because that
like, that's how, I'm sorry, go ahead,
no
ma'am.
worries. I was just saying that's like what you said, that builds that community that is so important to you. And I think to so many people, especially in tech, it probably feels like, a real group, a real family. So that's awesome.
Well, I have this philosophy called, every day is a Monday, and that's how tech is. Like, you have to evolve and learn every day. And, people, they evolve and change. They need mentorship for different things. Like today, we have veterans who need mentorship on, you know, what to do if they, to get their first job. Then, we've had recently people who they need mentorship on what to do when they're going Fangam, right?
Right.
When they're in the big six jobs, and then when they get the big six jobs, I have one truth who's like, okay, I've done the big six job for a year. For me, this stuff sucks. How can I leverage it and do my own thing?
Right.
And get
The
how do
many
I how can I
stages.
yeah, how can I leverage this and see my way out and make money this way? And I was like, okay, let's work with you on this. Like, this is one of the reasons why I try to do everything. I'm not intentionally busy. I just want to have the experience. Then that deep, you know, it's like in mixed martial arts they used to call it big game experience. Like, okay, it's cool that you did these local shows, but you need like a a regional or a national show or something like that, or even the military, right? That big game experience would be like, oh, it's cool that you've been doing it in the training field, but have you gone to Iraq? Have you gone to Afghanistan? Have you used this stuff on the field? No, you haven't. So you don't know what you're talking about. So like
Right.
that is my ideal when it comes to Vetsu Code. Like, yes, I can talk to you about I can talk to you about workshops. I can talk to you about contracting. I can talk to you about your first job. I can talk to you about switching stacks. I can talk to you about all these things about open source and all these things that you may not have that you don't have that experience with, because I actually do have that experience with that.
Right.
So I'm not talking out of the side of my like face or the side of my neck. I'm just, I actually have this hands-on experience that I could share with you, or I have a deep enough network and like, hey, this is beyond my scope. But what I will do is I'll send an email, introduce you to somebody who can talk to you about this. And I think that's the secret, right? Like, being working hard enough to become an expert at something while also understanding you can't get expert at everything, but you grow your network to the level where, hey, I can become an expert at everything, or I can become an expert at making friends or an expert at making relationships, which I feel like is my true superpower. Like I am really focused on the things I love, and then I make friends and allies and friendships based upon that thing. And then like I love veterans, and I love front end, and I love serverless. And people, they just gravitate towards me because that's all I'm talking about all the time.
Right.
And they're like, hey, you're kind of cool. Like, what else do you like? Oh, like pizza and whiskey and other things like that. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, we could be pizza bros, or like, my biggest, if you're all following on Twitter, people see the biggest thing I talk about um, beyond coding and veterans is Asian food fusion with like, oh yeah, like Southeastern American to like Asian food fusion. So I'm thinking like Memphis barbecue with like Korean bulgogi, or
Yum.
yeah, so
I'm
or
sorry.
yeah, so I think in terms of like that all the time, like how to make pork tonkatsu, or show you with the pork belly that has like the right like amount of like southern tastings that a southerner in America would like. So
Yeah.
like yeah, or
That's a
I
special
think
skill.
yesterday, yeah, I think yesterday I was on Twitter. I was thinking of a gochujang brisket, right? So doing Texas style Brexit, but using gochujang sauce and seasonings, which is like a really sweet and spicy, like Korean like seasoning. So using that with the brisket, and like had Wes Boss, who's a big name in Twitter. He's like, "Oh, I am interested in that idea. Let's talk this out."
Oh,
So
cool.
that's my thing right now. Is like
Yeah.
because I like Korean food, I love Japanese food, I love Chinese food, and like
And you
I'm
never know
just
where you
trying to,
connect with people over things like that.
yeah. Well, everybody eats, right? So
Yeah. But not
like
everybody cooks, that's for sure.
yes, but I can make it so you'll think about it at least. Like, yo, like this guy got me wanting to like buy a real. So like that's the thing. I have that conversation. It's like when people like that's like my biggest thing. Like culinary science is something that I really like. I love the website SeriousEats.com,
Okay.
and because I suck at cooking, so like I'll like read it. Like my wife is a better cook than me, so I'm like always trying to get on board and like trying to step my game up a little bit to figure out more about fats, salts, acids, and sweets and things of that nature. So like that is how how I level up. And it's the same with like coding, right? You start following recipes online to build a thing, and then you do that enough, and you start like, well, I kind of like how this looks. Can I do this thing right here a little bit better? And then next thing you know, oh snap, I've like made this thing on my own. I didn't look at anything, and that's what that's how you become a good programmer.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I've seen that kind of metaphor before of, tutorials and coding is similar to following a recipe. And after a certain period of time, when you get comfortable enough, you don't have to follow line by line. But I think that's a really cool way to look at it. And seems like you kind of approach those different areas of life with the same methods of learning and getting better. So that's cool. Um, Super exciting and just interesting chatting with you. And it's a great point you bring up. You never know, like sharing personal things and hobbies like that on Twitter and on social media. It's sometimes a really great way to connect and network with people that you've been wanting to meet and get in touch with anyway. And it doesn't always have to be like, hey, let's talk about really serious business and technology and whatever. It can be, let's connect over, bond over something else that we think is cool. So that's a good point you bring up. Everyone, no matter what role they're in, networking is always something that I think most people I talk to say that they are working on or want to get better at, or it's the only reason they are where they are. So you can't really ignore it.
Yeah, well, it's all about, you don't have to network on the thing that you are trying to do, right? Because what if you start out only talking about tech? What happens is people assume that all you care about is their position. So what you do is that you start off on things that you like and that you're passionate about, and talking about those in general, and you attract those people. Then Gary Vee, he says it best, right? Give value, give value, give value, then ask, right? Like, so before you ask, you need to give value at least 4 times, right?
Right.
And like that is the same process, right? You want to give value, you want to add value before you take, right? Same way in relationships, right? The worst part of relationships is that what happens is usually someone's a giver and someone's a taker, and the taker doesn't realize that they need to start giving a little bit more, like 3 times to what they take, right? So you have to, uh, I guess you had to put money in the bank, into your relationship bank, and for every deposit, for every withdrawal you take, you make 3 deposits. So like that is the goal, or that's how I look at
Right.
it.
The
These are all
social currency.
relationships. Yes, like that's how I look at it, though.
Yeah,
So
exactly. No, that's a great way to look at it. And I think a good tip for me and probably for anyone listening to remember, because people probably get a little too eager sometimes and go straight to an ask and don't remember the give and take nature of how humans are. So I think that's a great reminder. But
now, I mean, all right. So one of the things I try to tell people, if you think about it this way, if you take your time to cultivate a relationship, the ask you can make is much bigger than if you rush, right?
right,
If you
right,
speed through the ask, then what's going to happen is you speed through that process, your ask is going to be small. Like, yeah, they might make an introduction to you, right? But if you take your time adding value to that person before you do the ask, they're not going to just make the introduction for you. They're going to evangelize about you, right? They're going to
exactly.
take chances. Like, I remember when I first started at Soup Code, and, you know, when it came to the ask that I could make, I was lucky if I could break even on the money that I used to start the nonprofit. I like cost like $3,700 to start the nonprofit and keep it up and running at that time. And now, like, I'm at a level with the things that I've done, or where the ask I can make are so big because of the work I do. And like now is what all I focus on now is like expanding the outreach, because I know where are the best times for my ask. And yeah, I understand that, like things are going to be rough at Q1, Q2, Q3, or like second half to the first half of Q3. But I know that if I just keep adding value all year, what's going to happen is that people are going, when I do make my ask, everyone is going to like step up, and they're going to see the things that I'm doing, and they're going to see the things that the work that I put in, and they're going to be like, yo, I'm gladly gonna help you, or help your veterans. Like, so that's the
Right.
focus, right? The focus is, it's like ribs, right? The slower you go, the better it's gonna be. I
Exactly.
know I'm using a lot of food analogies, but it's like 5 here, so
Yeah,
almost
that's the
6.
way to
So
do it. Exactly. Well, before my stomach starts eating itself, I have I have one last question or just kind of thing to discuss before we wrap up. I was gonna just say for listeners and for people that I'm sharing with, and anyone out there, what different ways can community get involved with Vets Who Code and help out? I know I was looking at the website and saw, of course, people can donate. That also people can become a mentor. I don't, maybe share a little bit about that, or just kind of what average listeners can do to help you guys out and spread the word.
Roger that. So, I mean, of course, following us on Twitter, that's a small ask. It gives us big impact, right? Like, the more followers we have, the more legitimate we look to other tech companies. And because they know that if they work with us, they're going to get more, people will see that. So, like, always, like, following us on Twitter at Vets Who Code is a big one. Second one is, our mentorship program. We ask that people who have a year of experience working on a production level project to come to Vets Code and help us help veterans, like especially if you're military and you're looking for a community to be a part of where you can just shoot the crap with a bunch of other veterans. Like, we're here if you want to help with veterans and help solve problems for code. Beyond that, donating, well, I know people are kind of uncomfortable when they hear nonprofits about donating, but donating is the most impactful thing you can do for a nonprofit because, in the end, this is something that I personally obsess about, right? That, while it may be a thing that, sounds cool to you in a one-off situation, something, this is the first thing I think about in the morning and the last thing I think about at night, right? So, like finding ways to help veterans is my obsession. Like I'm not gifted in this. I've been working my butt off for the past 6 years to
Right.
get to the level to where I can efficiently and effectively help our nation's men and women come back home and get jobs, particularly in the front end engineering department. So like that helps me help more people, provide more tools, more people, help them get resources and things of their nature so that we can help them by creating the opportunities and processes that they need.
Right.
But yeah,
Well,
those are the
yeah.
big three.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I think that that's awesome, and I don't think people should be uncomfortable around the world of donating. I mean, it's such a common thing nowadays, and it's good to at least know that you're donating to an organization like Vets Who Code, and to really hear these success stories and know where that dollar's going. I'm sure helps a lot, and hopefully people aren't. I don't know if there's a negative stigma around it or if there used to be, but I feel like that's kind of being lifted, especially for organizations like this that are just really necessary. As you said, there's not anyone else doing this, and it's clearly providing value. So I'm super super excited to learn about this and kind of help get the word out. I'll definitely post kind of the Twitter links and other links in the description to this episode. And we try to make our episodes available on all the usual places where people listen to podcasts. But thank you, Jerome. This has been a really fun conversation. I've been really eager to talk to you and kind of hear this story. And it's just as inspiring as I thought it would be. And thank you for your service. And I guess congrats on all these achievements thus far. I'm excited to keep following Vets Who Code and see what you guys do.
I said, Roger that. Thank you so much. I accidentally muted myself.
No worries. I saw that. Oh, the battles of Zoom calls. Well, hey, yeah, thanks a lot and looking forward to keeping in touch and appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your evening.
Roger that. Same here.
Thanks for listening to Select Star, your resource for innovative technology and developer topics. You can find our episodes in all the usual places: Spotify, Apple, Google, RSS, and YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share. You can learn more about HarperDB at harperdb.io.